It's noon here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and this is CarEdge Live for Friday, January 10th, with your hosts, me, Ray, and, well, that nice-looking young man, Zach. And I must report there is an actual HVAC unit in the giant-ass hole in my wall behind me. Jeff and his team are working on it as we speak.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. The hole has been filled by the giant ass heating system. Congratulations
Yes.
to my father. Today's show brought to you by CarEdge.com. In some ways, CarEdge helped make heat happen for my dad because, CarEdge pays the payroll. So congratulations to our community for helping my dad get heat this winter. If we can help you out with anything, folks, CarEdge.com. You can see dealer invoice price for free. You can search for cars. You can research vehicles. We can help you buy a car, get warranty, sell a car, refinance, or save money on auto insurance, all that, and so much more, damn it, back at CarEdge.com. Now, Dad, the big story this morning is that dealers are discounting inventory significantly, but it's still not enough. We have some of the latest data thanks to Automotive News and Motor Intelligence, and I want to harp on just this for a moment. The average discount on the Kia EV9 ballooned from $8,730 in 2023 when it went on sale to $18,279 last year. At the same time, we have a headline like this: Cox inventory largely flat at 3.11 million units. The incentives, the discounts are getting bigger and bigger, but the pile of inventory that's not being sold continues to stay the same. Ray's got it right. $18,000 is somehow still not enough.
Well, have the EV9 sales picked up at all with the $18,000 plus discounts? That would be what would be curious. And does that include the $7,500 from the federal government that, well, very well could be going away shortly? And then what happens?
But more broadly, Dad, we know that we've seen incentives go up and inventory stay the same. So we can harp on the Kia EV9, for instance, or we could look at some of these others that are called out here that are electric vehicles. But no matter...
Bless you.
No matter how you slice it, Dad, you've got rising incentives, inventory staying flat. That's a bad mix for the auto industry. You would expect rising incentives to drive inventory down. That's not what the data is showing us.
Well, I think what the data shows to a certain degree is that certain brands have rising incentives and stagnant inventory, where other brands similar, I don't know, say Toyota, Honda, their inventory level might be up a tad, but their sales are up quite a bit as well. So I think it depends on the brand. I think if we look at some of the Stellantis brands, we would probably see that the inventory levels are about the same or up a little bit. Sales haven't really ticked up all that much. So I think it depends on brand.
I think it does depend on brand. You're absolutely right. And there's a broader trend going on in the industry, because we can even look at it, Dad. I think I've got it back, or actually it's here in this article. If I scroll down, most automakers finish strong, but Stellantis and even Toyota stumbling a little bit at the end of the year. So it could be brand specific. I think part of this is brand specific. And also there's a general trend going on in the auto industry, which is incentives have to go up to try and get cars sold. That's what I had highlighted right here. You can see the average incentive for the year was $2,880, up from $1,020 from 2023. So think about that. Incentive spend from the automakers went up well over 100% year over year from 2023 to 2024. And you can see here incentives on the Ford Bronco, for example, which sold well over sticker when it first launched a few years ago, was more than $5,000 in the last 3 months of 2024, according to Motor Intelligence. So brand is one story, but general trend in the industry is another. You can't really, it's irrational to think that those Broncos were selling $5,000 above MSRP just a couple of years ago, and now you can get them for significantly below MSRP, with the manufacturer spending $5,000 out of their own pockets trying to sell them.
And we know, I think the average incentive in December was $3,400, $3,500. So we also know that from December of 2023 to December of 2024, there were about 400,000 more units available, new units available in December of 2024. So, yes, we know inventories have gone up. Yes, we know many of the manufacturers are trying to attack that with greater incentives. But we also know that the segment of the market that is growing is at $30,000 and below, and the higher priced vehicles, we have actually seen sales declines year over year. So there's a growing inventory, there's a need for larger incentives, and then there's the need for the manufacturers to recognize the elephant in the room, which is they need to produce lower profit margin entry level vehicles, because that's what the vast majority of Americans can afford at the moment.
Let's do a live experiment. This time we're not going to CarEdge.com. We're going to Jeep's incentive page, Dad. All right, there's some good-looking Jeeps out in the rugged environment. Let's look for some Jeep deals near us. Let's try and put this to the test. So we've got the Wagoneer S. We're not going to worry about that. We've got here a Grand Wagoneer. We can get $4,000 in cash incentive, Jeep says. What is this? The Wagoneer over here, $4,000. These are for the 2024s. I'm curious, get 10% below MSRP on a Wrangler. That's becoming interesting. We've got $7,000 in cash incentive on the Grand Cherokee, 15% off on the Gladiators, Dad, just from the manufacturer, 10% off on the Compass. So these numbers are seemingly quite large, but again, they're not enough to really move the needle.
Are they? I mean, is 15% below MSRP on a Gladiator, which is probably one of the most significantly overpriced vehicles in the market to begin with? So is 15% off really something that's going to move the needle on? I suppose it might. I like that MSRP starting at $37,895. Yeah, try and find one.
All right, put me to the test.
Just try and find one.
Stand by.
Yeah. And maybe there is one in America.
65,000, 59,000, 67,000, 53,000, 53,000. These are 25s. Let's look at just 24s for a second. Give me a second. All right. 65,000, 59,000, 67,000, 57,000, 68,000. Yeah, I haven't seen one that starts with a 4 yet, let alone
or a 3. Yeah. So yeah, I suppose they do start at 37.8 something. It's just nobody ever built any.
There's one that starts with a 4, $48,805. That's a good
$10,000 more than
These are expensive, man. All right, I clicked on 2 of them because I'm very curious to actually look at the market insights. 311 days on the dealer's lot, Dad. This 2024 Jeep Gladiator Rubicon 4-wheel drive has been sitting here for 311 days. And the support from the manufacturer is up to 15% off of MSRP. That's the whole point of today's show, is these offers are seemingly tremendous, yet there's still not enough. How can you say it's enough when it's been sitting here for 311 days? And drum roll, please, the market days supply is 230 days, Dad.
Well, that's not a good recipe there. That we ain't making nothing in Emerald's kitchen with those type of numbers. It's if you got 15% from the manufacturer, and maybe you could get another 8 to 10% from the dealer, so that way the dealer really is making nothing, or next to nothing. Would people buy it at 25% off if it was a $60,000 Gladiator at 25% off? That would be what, 6, 12, 15,000 off on a $60,000 one. Doesn't seem like it'd be a big enough discount to get you to want to buy it.
And Dad, this is, like you were saying, that more expensive Gladiator. Here's the Sport that has an MSRP of $48,000, 221 days supply for this one as well. So it's not like the cheaper one over at Jeep, and it's like comparatively cheaper because it's still a very expensive price point. And again, that's the whole. My intent with today's title, Dad, and with the show was you have inventory levels that are flat. So the automotive industry had an incredible end to December. Consumers bought a lot of new cars, lots of trade-ins, lots of activity. However, these automakers couldn't stop producing so many vehicles, and the sales were not so great that it could offset that, even though they were spending, what did we use the JD Power data? It was $1,000 to, what was it, $2,800.
So it was almost 3 times the size of the incentive.
Yeah, I mean, think about that for a second. Manufacturers increased their incentives 3 times, almost 3 times, a 200% increase year over year. And still, inventory levels for the entire year went up a ton. That's actually what's fascinating about the data over here, Dad, is we can quantify. A year earlier, inventory had been 400,000 vehicles lower, while supply stood at 71 days. Supply right now is sitting at an 83 days supply for the automotive industry, and that includes your outliers like Toyota and Lexus, which we know have insanely low days supply.
Yes.
So this is why when I go to for example, we did the live experiment this time on Jeep's website. These offers are good through February 3rd because they didn't discontinue them after December. And I think you're going to continue to see really aggressive new car incentives here in the first quarter of 2025 because these automakers have to find a way. And you're the man with the YouTube video that has millions of views titled, "What Happens to Unsold Cars?"
Yeah, what does happen to them?
They get sold eventually.
They do. Somebody ends up buying them, whether they get wholesaled to somebody, but eventually they find a retail buyer. And it will be, it very well could be at an extremely reduced selling price. I mean, let's face it, if the dealers were to take these new vehicles, these Gladiators, to the auction, well, everybody at the auction knows that from the manufacturer, there's 15% off. And they also know that there's about 10 to 12% margin built into it on the dealer side of things. So if a $60,000 Gladiator made it to the auction, what do you think a dealer would pay for that at the sale? $35,000? $38,000?
You know, the next live experiment we're going to do is we're going to go into Black Book on the CarEdge website. We're going to start to plug in some of these new 300-day-old Gladiators. Imagine they had, I don't know, 3,000 miles on them, and let's see what they're actually worth, because there's such a disparity right now between what a vehicle's actually worth and what these manufacturers are asking for. And the incentive spend went up 3 times, 200%, 3 times, and it's still not enough.
I would be curious as to see if you were to take a Gladiator and plug it into CarWiser at
CarEdge.com/sell.
Yeah, with 1,000 miles on it, and see what type of offers you get for it.
All right, we're going to do 2 things, folks.
Yeah, do it by VIN. Yeah.
We're going to do 2 things. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my CarEdge dashboard. I'm going to click on My Insights, and I'm going to start with Black Book. I'm going to scroll down here. I want the Black Book valuation. So let's say, for argument's sake, it's got 5,000 miles. Whoops, I'm in Maryland, not Michigan. Okay, so we're going to get the Black Book values for this Jeep Gladiator, which, again, the level set here is a $68,485 Jeep Gladiator Rubicon 4-wheel drive. I'm over here. I'm going to get my trade-in values. Black Book says that if I were to sell this private party, it's worth about $44,350 with 5,000 miles on it. Okay, so that's the first data point that we're going to look at. The next data point that we're going to look at is I'm going to CarEdge.com/sell. Let me come here. I'm going to start over. I'm going to put a VIN in. I'm going to say it's got 5,000 miles on it, not 50,000, 5,000. And I want to use a Maryland, there we go, 28, whoops, license plate or VIN, my apologies. I want to use a Maryland zip code. Click continue. This is going to on CarEdge.com. Yeah, okay, there you go. They don't even have instant offers. No instant offers for that vehicle. Carvana is your only option. That might might have something. So there you go, Dad. We got one trade-in value or one private party value, which is
which I think is
20,
high.
yeah, which is $22,000 below the MSRP. And we've got one solution that gives us no value.
And we had this discussion yesterday. If I was running a dealership today and people wanted to trade in Jeep products or Stellantis products, if I couldn't, it's a terrible word to use, but if you couldn't steal the trade, because it's hard to put a solid market value on the trade, if you know or suspect that even though it's 15% off right now, that we've heard that number is going to grow to like 35% off.
Theoretically, I have no sources that have said and come out and been, validated that they're going to drop the prices of Jeep products by 30%. But that's what it would take, it seems.
But if I mean, how do you start assigning values to trade-ins if you're hearing the rumors that could happen? That so significantly impacts the market conditions for those pre-owned ones. It would just, I nothing against our dear friends at Black Book.
Yep.
But I think those numbers are terribly inflated. And believe me, somebody that owns a Gladiator, a 2024 with 5,000 miles on it, that was a $68,000 Gladiator, they're going to think it's way low. And I'm telling you, I think it's way high.
Yeah. Well, look at the range on the trade-in, Dad. The range for the trade-in value is all the way from $35,500 to $45,895. That's a pretty damn big range.
Well, yeah, but it's all depending on condition, which is why we typically use average. But the point is, if you're looking to trade one at a dealership, if you have somebody you have to be so conservative with the numbers that you put on the vehicles. When gas early in this decade or this century, was $4 and $5 a gallon, and everybody was trying to trade in their gas guzzlers for fuel efficient cars, the amount of losses that people were taking on those gas guzzlers, it was the dealerships looked at them and said, I don't know, we gotta try and figure out what rock bottom is. And if the customer will take rock bottom for it, then we'll trade it. If they're not willing to take rock bottom, we're not willing to make the investment because we don't want to get stuck with it. Yeah. And I think that's what's going to happen with some of these Stellantis products. If they end up doing huge
that's
percentages
actually,
off.
Yeah, that's actually a really good, I don't know, like takeaway for our community and for our audience. When you start to see tremendous incentives. So I would qualify what we're seeing today as $18,000 off on the Kia EV9, 15% off Jeep Gladiators. Those are good incentives. Those are strong incentives. They're not tremendous. When you start to see tremendous, which is that next tier up that we've been discussing, know that when you go and you purchase one of those vehicles, there will be a downstream challenge you face. It's not, in my mind, Dad, too dissimilar from when you buy a used car and it's got an accident on the Carfax. Immediately, it's just worthless.
Yes.
It's just, or you buy a salvage title vehicle, it's just not worth the same. You're going to get lowballed when you go to sell it. You might, run into issues there. It feels similar when you go and you buy a 30% off Jeep Wrangler. The MSRP is some bogus number at this point. That's no longer a fair value for what the vehicle is. It will be when the dealer goes and tries to sell it as a used car, however. Yes. They will try and justify an inflated value for it. But when they buy it from you, to your point, quote, steal it, it feels similar to like accident on the Carfax or salvage title to a degree.
Anytime a dealership trades a vehicle, it's a crapshoot. Okay, you're trading it and you think you know enough about the market that you'll be able to turn around and sell it for more than what you traded it for.
Yeah.
There is no guarantee that will happen.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What's the worst trade-in story in your career? Like what's the one that you appraised and you just effed it up, man? Like, do you have one that comes to mind?
There was a Cadillac Escalade, if I remember correctly, and it was beautiful looking. And Ray apparently didn't bring his glasses with him that day when he appraised. He went out and he appraised the vehicle and he looked at it.
I like
And
how you're telling this story in the third person.
and Ray forgot to check the appraisal slip to make sure that the customer had signed the appraisal slip stating that he answered the questions that has it ever been in an accident, and if so, how much. He never signed it. He never answered those questions.
Wait, is this Ray you or Ray the customer?
Yeah, Ray me.
Okay, all right, all right.
Ray who made a mistake. And I went out and I appraised it and I looked at it. It looked gorgeous. And as it turned out, it had a pretty extensive accident. Okay. And so rather than retail it ourselves, we took it directly to the auction and we lost $5,000 at the auction on that vehicle. That was a pretty expensive learning experience for me, to always remember to look at the appraisal slip, always remember to make, if it isn't signed, and if the questions that we hadn't been asked and answered, to send the salesperson back to get that information. Because if somebody attests that it's never been in an accident, but it had been, we could go after them. Not that we would have, but it protected us to some degree.
Have you ever screwed one up where there wasn't an accident? You just bought it wrong? Like, do you remember? Yeah, like that happens too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that I remember there was one time when I first started at the Acura store in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
And we had a Legend 5-speed. And nobody wanted it. I mean, nobody wanted it. It sat on the lot forever, and we sold it, and we sold it for a loss. And I remember having a conversation with the used car manager like the following week. He had just gotten back from the sale, and he bought another Legend stick. And it was like, I looked at him. I said, we lost like $4,000 on the first one. What are the odds that there's two people living in Scottsdale, Arizona, that want a Legend in a manual transmission? I mean, why do you think there's two people when it took us forever to find one person? So, yeah, I mean, we all, anybody in the industry makes mistakes. We all make mistakes. When we appraise, we think it's worth more than it is. We think it'll be a quick turn. It's not. That's why I say every time a dealership trades a car, it's a crapshoot.
But Dad, that's what I'm saying. That's what's going to happen. That Legend story, the Escalade story is interesting because you can make mistakes. That's life. The Legend story is super interesting because that's what's going to happen to these Jeep Gladiators. And that's just one example, but it's going to happen across a bunch of vehicles that are not selling well as new cars, are being heavily depreciated to get them sold. You think they're going to sell as used cars? Like, no, the trade-in value is going to be bad. The dealer's not going to maybe make money. Like, no one wins in that situation. Phil on our team, Dad, sent me even more data. He ran the same VIN in another one of our service providers here. So you can see more ranges. Again, this is for a $68,000 new Jeep, $68,485 new 2024 Jeep Gladiator Rubicon with four-wheel drive. We are imagining selling it with 5,000 miles, and here's what it's worth. So there's a huge disparity here. Now look at this for an average price point on private party. You're talking about $28,000.
Oh yeah,
depreciation.
And that's why dealerships tend to be conservative. And
I want to just say one more thing, Dad, before you go on this. And that $28,000 depreciation is still not enough. That's what's wild about where we are right now.
No, and it's going to take more than that to really move the needle. But for any of us who have spent any time in the industry, there isn't any one of us who hasn't guessed wrong on a trade-in. I mean, it just happens.
Yeah.
Now, the concept is to pick more winners than losers during your career. and you need to consistently do that. But if you're consistently picking losers, well, my guess is you're going to be making the rounds of other dealerships looking for a management position. It's just a guess.
Certainly seems that way. All right, I want to look at one more thing on today's show, Dad, which is the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yes.
The year 2000, top selling vehicles with their units per unit sold per year versus 2024. The Ford F-Series in 2000 sold 876,000 vehicles. In 2024, they actually sold less, 834,000. Fascinating. Silverado, similar story, 645,000 vehicles sold in year 2000, 560,000 sold in 2024. The Ford Explorer, way back when, was selling 445,000 vehicles per year in the year 2000. The Toyota RAV4 is your third place vehicle in 2024 at 475,000. This list seemingly leaving off the Tesla Model Y, which we'll know is here in the back of our minds. But then number 4 used to be the Toyota Camry at 422,000 units. Now the Honda CR-V at 402,000 units. Honda Accord at 404,000 back in the year 2000. The Ram pickup truck sneaking in here because that Model Y is not included at 373,000 units. Sold big pickup trucks back in the year 2000, big pickup trucks in the year 2024.
Still selling, but not selling as nearly as well as they had been.
Oh, yeah. Sales, we talked about this the other day. Sales in the auto industry are actually down as compared to the year 1986.
Yes. They sold, there were more new cars retailed in 1986, a tad bit more than 16 million, compared to 2024, where 15.85 million new cars were retailed. And we determined that in 1986, the population in America was somewhere around 230 million people. And today it's close to 350 million people. And we realized that a percentage of those are kids who can't buy cars. But apparently there's an even bigger percentage of adults who can't buy cars, because even though there's more people out there, there's fewer vehicles being sold.
Yeah.
Go figure. Could it have anything to do with price? Could it have anything to do with price? I'm thinking, just me personally, I'm thinking, because in 1986, I guarantee you the average transaction price must have been somewhere around $9,000 or $10,000.
Yeah, it certainly was not even inflation adjusted, nowhere close to where it is today. Folks, today's show is brought to you by CarEdge.com. We're in year number 5. We've built some really cool stuff over the past 5 years. Under research, everything here is free, which should be for you and for me.
Yes.
We can help you out. Use the car search, the dealer invoice price. If you're in the market and you want us to do all the work for you, we have a car buying service, which thousands of people took advantage of last year. CarEdge Insights, our reports, so much great information back at CarEdge.com. Go for it, Dad.
Well, may I say, I saw a comment today and somebody asked, hey, is there any way to finance the car buying service fee into your auto loan? My answer to that is, if you have to finance the concierge service fee into the car loan, you shouldn't be buying a car. Yeah, okay? You just shouldn't be doing it. Save your money. Keep driving what you're driving. Go find a beater. But there's no way you should want to finance $999 and pay interest on that for the next 5 or 6 years. Makes no sense at all.
Yeah, 100%. Dad, can I show you something really freaking cool that our team's been working on?
Yes.
This is on our.
I love freaking cool things.
This is on our staging website, folks. This is not available to everyone just this moment. However, we've been working on improving our window sticker capability. We have nearly fully functioning Toyota window stickers. Okay, so for Toyota vehicles, you'll be able to get a window sticker. We have this for Ford and General Motors as well. But Toyota window stickers coming soon to a CarEdge car search near you. And I want to be very clear here. 100% for free. There are so many websites out there that charge money for window stickers. Hell, what was it? 3 years ago, we worked with a partner that was charging us like, I think it was $3 per window sticker, and then we were selling them for $4. Okay, we were trying, folks.
Yeah.
Make our 25%, and it was just not great. We've been rebuilding them from scratch, working to get these window stickers out there. Starting with Toyota, we have Ford and GM too. You'll be able to use them for free. You don't have to do anything, just for free back on the CarEdge car search. So hope folks are getting excited about that. All right, Dad, I love you very much. I hope you have heat this weekend. It's supposed to get even colder next week, Dad.
I can't
So
wait.
Please get the heat working.
Well, you just put all this added pressure on Jeff. Jeff and Ed, get the damn heat working. You heard it from the audience.
All right, folks, enjoy your weekend, Dad. I love you so much. Enjoy whatever sports you've got watching later on today.
Football, baby. Football, and
big
more
football weekend. Yeah, big football
Yeah.
weekend. Enjoy your football, Dad.
You too, handsome. Have a great day. Love you as well.
Love you. Bye.